All right, so today we're talking about capturing, organizing, and printing your photos. And this is a collaboration of Mylio Photos and Printique. So we're gonna show you how you can use Mylio to organize your photos and make them print ready to send them right to Printique to get just beautiful, beautiful prints. And just really quick about me, I'm JC Figueroa. I'm the customer success lead at Mylio. That means that I manage the support team and I'm the guy making sure that all customers' inquiries are getting answered. We have lots of ways in which you can communicate with our team, chat, via email, directly from the app. You can send us requests. So the team that I lead are in charge of answering all your questions. We try to take good care of you. And then I also do things like this, present Mylio and do webinars. I'm also an underwater photographer. And throughout the presentation today, as I show you my own personal library of photos, you'll see a lot of underwater photos. I've been a media and technology educator for many years, so I'm not even going to tell you how long. I had a lot more hair when I started doing media and technology. Let's just put it that way. And I am the default family memory keeper for my entire extended family. So everybody expects me to take the photos and keep the photos and find the photos. So it's a job that I appreciate and cherish. So a couple of housekeeping things. This webinar is being recorded. So if you miss something or I'm going too fast, which I tend to do, Lori sometimes tells me to slow down. The webinar is being recorded, so you can always watch it again. You can go to community.mylio.com. It's usually posted there within 1 or 2 business days from the time the webinar occurred. As Lori mentioned, we have the chat window where you can connect with each other and leave general commentary. And we also have the Q&A section where you can post your questions. You can use either one. There's not that many of you today. When it's a large crowd, we prefer that the questions go in Q&A, so it's easier to track, but there's just a few of you today, so it should be pretty easy to keep track of. And what are we talking about? What's the agenda for today? So today is about learning about Mylio and what Mylio can do. We're going to talk about what is Mylio Photos. We're going to talk about how to gather and organize your photos, how to keep those memories safe. Once you have all the photos in Mylio, we'll show you a few ways in which you can use the application to find those photos fast and then get them print ready. So doing editing, maybe creating an album, and then sending those photos to Printique so that you can receive beautiful prints and put them on the wall or give somebody a nice photo album, etc. I gotta have a photo album around here that I'll show you. Yeah, there it is. I want to make sure I have it handy so you guys can all see it. All right, so let's just get started. What is Mylio Photos, right? Many of you are probably familiar with it. Maybe you're already a Mylio Photos user, but for those of you that don't know, Mylio Photos is an application. There's 2 parts to the application. There's the software, the app that runs on your phone or your computer. And then there's a service that we provide that allows those devices to stay connected and share a common library. So what Mylio helps you create is a lifetime library, a cloud-independent space where all of your photos or videos are organized and accessible. So instead of having some photos on Google Drive and some photos on Amazon Photos, and then you have the photos that are on your phone, and then you might have some memory cards or some photos on a hard drive that's sitting in a drawer somewhere, you have now a place to put all of your photos and for them to often automatically make it to that common library, and then you can access them from any device. Any device that you can install Mylio on, you can access the same common library. Mylio gives you fast and intuitive search, so it's super fast, and there's a lot of AI tools built into the product that help you find photos and add details to those photos, right? So you can have a photo and enrich it by putting details about who are the people in the photo, where did that photo take place, having a location, etc. The seamless connectivity is what I was mentioning before, where you can import photos into your computer, and the same library of photos will show up on your phone, will show up on your tablet, and you'll even have repositories, backups of those photos stored to drives or a cloud storage if you want. But Mylio is independent of the cloud. You can see all your photos on your phone, even if you're on the plane and there's no internet connection, because we are cloud independent. The cloud is completely optional when it comes to Mylio. It's also a reliable way of backing up your memories because you designate devices as what we call a vault, and I'll talk more about that during the presentation. And those devices are going to receive the original version of your photos in their full size, full quality, full resolution to preserve them and back them up. So you never have to lose a photo again. Uh, and even if your phone gets full, you can start deleting photos from your phone camera roll, and the photos are going to be preserved in Mylio. And Mylio is optimized for portability. So we have space saver technology that allows you to store a lightweight but fully editable version of your photos to any portable device. So, I have about 55,000 photos in my library. We have customers that have 1 or 2 million photos in the library. Many of our customers have in excess of 100,000 photos. Doesn't matter how many photos you have, Mylio can handle it, and it can put a version of those photos in your portable device, in your phone, without consuming too much space. That's what our space saver technology allows us to do. And the cloud independence that I mentioned gives you a lot of options so you can enjoy faster speed. Your photo library can be very private. So, you're not uploading your photos to a third party that might use them for their own purposes, like extracting data and selling you advertisement or telling you what hats to buy because they see that you have a lot of the same kind of hats in your photos. So that is the beauty of Mylio, very private, and you're always in full control of your photos. You know exactly where your photos are all of the time. So that's what Mylio Photos is. And there's different plans for Mylio Photos. You can have an individual plan, a plan meant for just you to organize your own photos, or you can have family plans. The family plans have the advantage of giving you a custom Mylio Photos setup where a live person, a real person, will sit down and offer assistance and help not just you, but the family members that you choose to be part of the plan get configured and configure your library so that certain members only see certain photos. Or, if you're sharing photos with grandma, we can make it so that grandma doesn't accidentally delete photos. Although most grandmas are pretty smart these days. I think we should maybe say the kids don't delete the photos, right? So we have a starter plan for up to 5 family members and a plus plan for up to 10 family members. And the plus plan includes our secure cloud storage, which isn't completely optional, but it's included with that plan. Uh, Extra repository for your photos. And we'll talk about when you might want to have cloud involved or not when we talk about protection. All right, so let's just jump into it. Let's just jump into the app and talk about how you can use Mylio to gather and organize your photos. Um, where are our photos, right? Where do you keep photos? Well, they're all over the place, right? You have files and folders on your computer or in external hard drives, or if you've changed computers a number of times, sometimes you buy a hard drive and you copy all the photos to that hard drive and you throw it in the drawer. And then 2, 3 years later, you do it again because you never imported those back into the computer. Of course, we all take photos with our phones these days. I've been taking photos all of my life. I can't count how many cameras I've owned in my life. But these days, oftentimes I only use my phone, especially when I want to travel live because phones take such good photos anymore. So we all have a bunch of photos in the phone. We have, of course, memory cards from all the different cameras we've owned, cloud services. If you uploaded photos to cloud services, some of your phones automatically upload photos to your cloud services. And we also post photos to social media that then we don't have anymore. The only place that photo might live is in Facebook, right? So Mylio gives you an opportunity to gather all your photos and bring them all into one place and automatically start organizing those photos in different views. So once you have a library of photos where you've imported photos from all different places, and I'll show you really quick that you can have a simple guided import that allows you to add photos from different places, right? So you can add the pictures folder on your computer or the movies folder from your computer. You can add photos from Apple Photos if you're on an Apple device like I am right now, or you can add photos from an Android tablet or phone, add your Facebook account, add your Flickr account, or choose a folder. If there's just a folder of photos that you know it's in a hard drive or on your computer, you can just click one button, choose that folder, and have those photos imported into Mylio, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then once those photos are in your library, Mylio gives you a few different views that you can use to enjoy those photos. I'm going to briefly go through those views. We'll be talking about all the different views as we go along, but my favorite one is the calendar view, and that's what you're seeing right now. And just to remind you, these are my real photos from real life. This is my actual personal library, so you're going to see a lot of goofy photos. Enjoy. So these are photos from my real life. And what Mylio has done is taken the date on those photos and it's used that date to organize the photos for me. So first it presents me with a decade view. This is what I'm seeing here. And in decade view, I can see kind of the photos by the different decades, by different years. Here's the 2020s, the 2010s. And I can scroll up and go to my daughter, my son rather, being born in 2003. I can show you my daughter being born in 1995 over here. You can see photos of my wedding, photos of me in college and high school. And then I can go further back to family heirlooms. And these are photos that I scanned and I brought into Mali. And of course, those photos didn't have the correct date, but Mylio does have the facility to allow you to edit metadata. And this is something I'll go into a little bit more detail shortly. But by editing that metadata, I can display photos from well before I was born. You know, there's my dad in the military receiving some awards, and the only photo I have from my grandma, so on and so forth. So the calendar view is a great place to find photos based on when the photo was taken. And I can go into any one year. I say I can go into 2018 here and click on a particular month. So when I go into a year, I see the months of that year. There's 2018. I can click into a month. So I'll go into May here, and Mali's going to show me all the months, all the days in that month for which photos exist. And then if I click on a particular day, like if I go here to May 4th, 2018, I can see all the photos that were taken on that day. Then I can open any one of those photos and get a lot of information about that photo by clicking the info button. What camera did we take this photo from? When was it taken? Any keywords that I've added, whether the photo was correctly exposed. Here, Mali is telling me that there's sky in this photo and there's a person in the photo, who the person is, where the photo was taken, et cetera, et cetera. All of that information is, in many cases, automatically added. In some cases, you have to add the data yourself, depending on where the photo came from and how much data is in that file to begin with. So again, that's the calendar view. It's a way to find photos based on when the photo was taken. Another view is the map view. And this is finding photos based on where a photo was taken. And here you can see a map of the world, and you can see little stamp size images of everywhere that I've taken photos. If I zoom in into any area, I live up here in Seattle. So the more I zoom into the Seattle area, the more prevalent those little thumbnails are going to become. And I can get pretty specific. Like I can go over here to the Olympic Mountains. And right now I'm showing you the map in a topographical view. You can have different options. You can have a standard map, a satellite view, or a topographical view. And the topographical view is one of my favorites because I can see my hikes. So I can go in here, and if I zoom in enough, I can even see the trail that I was following. So here's the trailhead. and there's the trail that I was following along, and I can just go along and see where I took the photos. There's the campsite. So very, very easy way to find your photos based on where a photo was taken. And of course, you can type a specific location here, like Puerto Rico, and Mylio will zoom into that area, and you can then see photos that were taken in that area. Um, so super helpful way. Of course, photos that were taken with a smartphone or with a camera that captures GPS data are automatically going to show in this view. Photos that do not have that GPS data in them, Mali is still kind of remembering those photos. If you look at the bottom left corner of the screen, there's a section there called View on Tag. And if I click on that, Mali is going to show me all the photos in my library for which I have yet to uh, add geotag data. But it's very, very easy to use Mylio to add that data. Like I know these two photos were taken in my mom and dad's uh, old house in a town called Calle, Puerto Rico. So I can type the name of that town. And there it is. It shows right up. And I can get as precise as I want or as general as I want by just dragging those photos. And if I click the green mark, now those photos are tagged. And when I go back to the regular map view, if I were to go to Puerto Rico again, sorry, I'm probably making you guys dizzy with how quickly I'm zooming in and out. Those photos are going to be found right there in that area in Calle where I just geotagged them. So it's that easy. It's that easy to add that level of metadata to your photos. There they are. So that's the map view, helping you find photos based on where a photo was taken. The next view is probably the most popular, which is the people view. And I always tell my kids that life is about experiences and relationships, and photos have a special way of capturing both of those things, the experiences that you live through and the relationships that you build. And when it comes to relationship, you often want to find photos of people that are important or special to you. And that's what the people view in Mali is designed to do. You can find all the photos of one person by tagging a few photos of a person's face, allowing Mylio to learn that face, and then Mali is going to help you find more and more and more photos of that person. I'm a brand new grandfather, so if I type here that, oops, wrong window. If I go in Mylio and I type Lucy, and I ask Mylio to find photos of Lucy, it found three different people. I'm talking about my granddaughter, of course, Lucy Grinling right there. So if I go to that section, Mylio is going to show me all the photos that I have of Lucy. And I have lots of photos of Lucy because my daughter is constantly sending me photos of her every day. And I save every single one. Right from my phone, I just tap the photo and I say save to Mylio, and those photos end up in my library. That easy. Uh, so here's all the photos of my granddaughter. Same with my daughter. I can say I want to find photos of Madeleine, and there's Madeline. And Mylio finds recent photos, but with Madeline, I can go all the way back through time and see her at different stages in life. And it's often kind of a great way to reminisce because you can kind of see your kids grow up again. So here I go back in time, uh, all the way to when she was a toddler and a little baby. And every one of those photos is in Mali. There's about 4,000 photos of my daughter. I didn't go to every single one and manually tag her face. I used Mali to help me find these photos. And it's really rewarding and really easy to do. And I'll show you in a bit exactly how you can tag photos when we talk about adding metadata. The next view is the album view, and the album view is a special one because it's a place where you create your own collections. Albums are a virtual collection, and they're different from what we call our folder view. The folder view is a direct representation of how the photos are stored in your hard drive. And just to explain that a little bit further, I'm going to split my screen here and I'm going to bring a Finder window. Um, I'm on Mac OS. If this was a Windows computer, this would be Windows Explorer for me to see my files. And what I'm doing is I have an external drive that Mylio saves everything I do to. I have three, but main media is my main drive. If I go there, there's a Mylio folder. If I open that folder, you'll see that the photos that you see in the folder view in my Mylio library, Mylio Inbox, Mylio Pictures, Test, Apple Photos, Trips, Android Photos, and Facebook, those are also represented in my hard drive. There's Android Photos, Apple Photos, there's the Test and Trips folders associated with my Mac because that's where the photos originally came from. The inbox and the Mylio pictures, and then under social media here, just like it shows in Mylio, there's the photos that I downloaded from Facebook. So in the folder view, I'm seeing a direct representation of how the media is stored in my hard drives. So the Mylio library is not a proprietary library that forces you to look at everything through Mylio. You're probably going to want to look at everything through Mylio because it's so much easier to find things, but you always have the security of knowing that your photos are right there in the hard drive, right there accessible through your computer's file system without you being dependent on the app. Um, our business is to help you organize photos, and we believe that we bring enough value that you'll want to keep using the app, but we don't hold anything hostage. You're always in full control. And that's part of what the folder view is about. Um, and really quick, I'm going to go back here to the slides. We talked about the different views. I haven't talked about the all photos view. We'll go back to that one in a second. We'll also talk about dynamic search and quick filters. But I wanted to just briefly go through some of the special organization that we talked about and how easy it can be. Folders, right? So if you've already organized your photos into folders on your computer and you just want to point Mylio to that, you can just tell Mylio, here's where my photos are, and Mylio is going to preserve that folder structure. I'll give you an example. Most of my photos are taken during a trip. So in my computer, before I started using Mylio, I had a folder called Trips, and within that folder, there were all the different folders starting in 2003, all the way down to the last trip that I took, which was last year to a place called Roatan. And Mylio has preserved that folder structure for me. So I can go into the folder view and see that same folder structure. And if I have subfolders within some of these folders, which I do, for example, here's Roatan. I went to that island in 2007 for a friend's wedding, and I was taking photos of their wedding and taking photos underwater. So there's 5 subfolders there. You see the number 5 and 1,037 photos. If I double click, there's all the subfolders. There's photos that were taken from a friend's camera. There's photos underwater. There's photos on land. There's some photos that we use for IDs because some people, including my wife, were getting certified as a scuba diver. So that folder structure was preserved. So if you've already done some organization, you don't have to give that up. That will come right into Mylio and be preserved. Albums, by contrast, are a virtual container. This is something that you only see in Mylio, and I'll show you a little bit more about that. And the other thing is categories. Categories is a really, really powerful tool that you're only going to find in Mylio. And what a category allows you to do is it allows you to break down your library or give your photo library another level of organization so that you can only work in subsets of your library at any one time. Quick example. I'm going to go to that. Because of categories, I've created a space that allows me to only look at my underwater photos, right? So I just show you my calendar. And in my calendar, there's photos, all kinds of photos, family photos, underwater photos, wedding photos, kid photos, etc. If I go here to my all photos view and I show you the information panel, I scroll all the way to the top here, you can see that you're seeing 51,000 photos in my library. Well, I can switch to a space based on the underwater category. And all of my views in Mali are going to change. Now, instead of looking at 51,000 photos, I'm only looking at 5,000. And if I go to the calendar view, my calendar is going to completely change. And it's only going to show me photos that were taken underwater. So you don't see any of my other family photos. You only see underwater photos. If I go to the map view, again, only places, whoops, zoom in too far again. Let's zoom back out. Only places where I've taken underwater photos are shown here in the map view. And even in the people view, that view gets reduced to only photos that, only people that appear in some of my underwater photos. And these are all my dive buddies, all the people that have gone diving with over the years. So as you can see, having categorization is a super useful tool because I can assign a category just to a folder and everything in that folder gets that category. So if you put all your family photos in one folder and then assign the family category to that folder, now you have all those photos categorized without having to touch every single photo. Because I guarantee you that I'm way too lazy to have assigned the underwater category to 5,683 photos. No, I let Mylio do that heavy lifting. So some quick notes there about organization. Also, let's talk a little bit more about folders versus albums, because this is something that tends to confuse people. So folders are the actual location of your photos. As you saw, whatever I put in a folder in Mylio is going to be in the same name folder outside of Mylio in the computer or external hard drive. An album is virtual. There is no reality to it other than the reality in Mylio. So albums can only be seen within the Mylio application, but you can see it on any device. I can open up my phone and find the same albums in Mylio on my phone that I created on my computer or vice versa. Folders are really used as your primary organization. This is where you create kind of a physical structure and where you know where your photos are going to live. Where albums are more of a secondary organization. They're more flexible. And an album can have multiple albums can have the same photo, whereas a folder contains a single version of a photo. A photo can only live in one folder unless you make a copy of that file. And you don't want to make copies of files because then you have duplicates. And every time you go to a different view, like the calendar view, you're going to see 2 or 3 versions of the same photos because you wanted to put them in different folders. Well, no, that's wasteful. And instead, you use albums. Let me give you a more concrete example. So if I go here to back to my folder view, and let's switch so that we're seeing everything again. We were in this trips folder. Well, I've taken photos of turtles in many, many locations, Bonaire and Galapagos and in Roatan, in Puerto Rico, lots and lots of different turtle photos. And each one of these folders of trips, I can go and find photos of turtles. But what if I wanted to have all of my turtles all in one place without having to go to all these different folders? And I didn't want to take those photos out of my folder structure, right? I want to know that this photo was taken in this location and it belongs in the trips Bonaire underwater folder. So I don't want to go out of that. I can instead go to an album, and I have created an album that shows all of the turtle photos I have. And there's over 100 of them, and they're all taken in all different locations. There's even one that's snuck in here. There's not a photo of a turtle in here, but guess what? The word turtle is in that photo, and that's how that photo ended up in here because Mylio can read. And I'll mention more about that in a bit. All right, so that's the difference between folders and albums, and you can see that you can have the structure. One thing that it's also very different about albums in Mylio is that one of the advantages of folders is that they can be hierarchical, right? You can say, here's all the photos from, let me give you an example. I can go to a folder in my library where the photos are organized by year. So here's all the photos from a certain year. And if I open that year, you see different months, kind of like what the calendar view does for me automatically, but in a folder structure so that I can see them outside of Mylio in that structure. Well, that's great. Um, but thing about albums in Mylio is that you can also have that subcategorization or that structure. So if I go here to my albums and I find an album that has sub-albums like this Miller House album, you'll see that there's 5 albums within that album. So I can open that and I can see that these are like all the photos from before my house was remodeled. And then there's all the photos of the house when we staged it to sell it, this particular house that we sold last year. So I can have that organization. I have an album of photos from Miller House, but within it I have different sub-albums. So I can have that same kind of capacity of uh, structural organization that I do with folders, but in a virtual way without, again, having to make copies or duplicate the photos. Because in some cases, I'm going to want the same photo to exist in a before and after album, right? There might be a photo here from before and a stage photo that I want to have side by side on a comparison. So the same photo can live in multiple albums. All right, I'll stop harping on albums and folders. I think you guys get it. If not, you'll ask me questions. I'll quickly talk about metadata. I told you that you can change dates. Let's give you an example really quickly. I'm going to go to the calendar view. And one of my favorite things about the calendar view is that I can create a little to-do list of what photos need to be corrected. Every time I find a photo that has the incorrect date, or anytime I scan a photo, the first thing I do is I use Mylio to change the date on that photo from whatever the incorrect date is to something called undated. And by doing that, Mylio creates a little to-do bucket here of all the photos that need dates. So you can see I have 1,552 photos that have the incorrect date or have no date on them. So if I open that up, I can go to any one of these photos and try to correct the date on it. And I do that with the date tool. Notice that right now this photo is set to undated, but I have lots of options on how I can date this photo. Starting from, if I only know the decade, I can say, okay, that photo, I look to be about, I don't know, 5 years old there. So that photo was probably taken in the 70s. So I can just say decade and go to the 70s here. Went too far. I'm not that old. And click on that. Or maybe I know the season and the year. I can say, okay, that looks like summer. I'm wearing short sleeves. Grass is pretty green. It's very sunny. So that must have been summer or spring. And I look to be about 5 years old. So that must have been, let's say, spring of 1974. So I can just click on season and year and go spring and then go to 1974. And that's how I can date the photo. Of course, if I know the exact time and date, I can just type it, or I can be as precise as I want. I can put an exact timestamp down to the milliseconds. So you can be as precise or as fussy as you want to be. And that's what we call this flexible dates. We call them fuzzy dates because they don't have to be precise because we don't always know when something happened, but we might have a general idea. And by changing the date, that photo is then going to present itself in the live calendar correctly. So that's how you edit date metadata. Uh, Title, caption, keywords, IPTC, and copyright, even categories, all of that can be done from the information panel. So I can capture all of this and I can be like, okay, this, I can put the correct date. That was pretty sure that was around Christmas and it looked to be about 7. So, oops, sorry. What did I do? Where'd it go? There it is. So let's say this was in December of 1977. Let's go ahead and fix it. Let's say this photo was taken in December of probably, let's say 1976. I'm just going to navigate here to 1976, save it. Now that photo has moved from the undated bucket. Notice that the count went down by one to 1977. So I'm going to go find it and change other things about it. Did I say 77 or I said 76, didn't I? So December 1976, there it is. I found it again. And now I can say, fire truck at Christmas. I seem pretty excited about that fire truck there. Uh, Look at that grin. So this is all metadata that I can add to the photos. I can add a keyword like I've added keywords to this photo. I can tell that this photo came from a scan, and I put the keyword on it called legacy bots. That's a scanning service that I use to scan a lot of my photos at one point. So I know where that photo came from. Mylio is automatically telling me some things about that photo. I can add all kinds of IPTC data. So if you're a professional photographer or a hobby photographer and you want to have information about yourself attached to your photos, you can have that. I can add categories. So I can say this is, part of family history or holidays. I can add those categories to that photo, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So lots of ways lots of data that you can add to the photos. People tagging. I told you that I was going to do people tagging. I already showed you how we do geotagging. So we'll do people tagging really quickly and then we'll move on. The easiest way to do people tagging is just by turning on this little icon called face tagging. And that is going to put a circle around any faces that Mylio finds on a particular photo. Notice that all of these photos, even though some of them are pretty blurry and all, have a circle around the photos. If I go to my people view, just like there's kind of a to-do bucket in the calendar view showing me all the undated photos, and there's a to-do bucket in the map view showing me all the photos that don't have GPS data, the people view shows me a container at the top here of untagged photos. So what Mali is telling me that is that in my library, there's 1,014 faces, not photos, because there can be more than one face in a particular photo, 1,014 faces for which I have not identified who the person is. So if I double click on that, well, the first thing we'll notice is that some of them are just Lucy photos, right? So I can go here, Mylio has already made the guess that that's Lucy, that's its number one guess. So I could do that. I can also use something called bash tagging, which I'll show you in a second, but just to show you. So there's the circle with a question mark. I can just either type the name, if it's a person that hasn't been added to the library yet, or I can just select from Mylio's guesses about who this person might be. But instead of having to go through every single photo like this, you can also use a tool called bash tagging. So I'm in a bucket of all of my untagged photos. I can go here and ask Mylio to open the bash face tagging. And that is going to go and aggregate all the photos of the same person. So here's all the photos that Mylio believes are of Lucy. I can quickly look through the photos, and if those photos are correct, I can simply click approve, and now those photos are correct, and Mylio has moved on to the next person. Now it's thinking that this is a photo of Jack. It's incorrect. That's also Lucy. So I can just use the pull down menu here and put the right thing because Mylio guessed wrong on that one. So on and so forth. That is indeed Alina, so I can click on that. That's again Lucy. She's everywhere. Um, and this is my little nephew, little Benji. So you can go through all of the photos of the same person. Notice, even if it's someone that I haven't identified, I don't remember her name. She was at a birthday party, so I haven't put a name to her. So it's kind of in my to-do list. I have to ask my daughter what her name is. So that's what these are. These are all aggregated photos of the same person that I can go and add the information um, to complete my library. And any one of these photos is going to have other people in it, right? So there's my daughter and there's my son-in-law, but their preacher. I don't remember his name, so I need to get the name for my daughter so I can complete the identification. Also, if there's people in your library that you don't need to remember their name, you can simply click ignore, or I could just ignore all of them by clicking this button up here. So lots of ways of tagging your photos and get the people view really, really cooking. You'll notice that I only have 1,000 faces that are not recognized. That's really good considering that I have 55,000 photos and many of them are going to have multiple people in them. All right, moving on. We talked about tagging people. And now let's talk about, we've aggregated all these photos. We added metadata to them to make them uh, even more valuable or easier to find. How do we keep them safe? Well, Mylio is going to make that really, really easy, right? We already consolidated our library. So all the photos are in a single library. That single library can be replicated to a single location, to a physical storage repository using what we call a protection vault. I'm going to switch again to the software here and show you that for my devices, I have 4 protection vaults, 3 hard drives, Grouper, Bluefin, and Main Media are hard drives connected to my different computers. And Backblaze is a cloud storage repository. So I am really using the 3-2-1 concept of backing my photos. 3-2-1 is where you have at least 3 copies of your media. Those copies are in at least 2 devices, because if I make 3 copies of my library to the same hard drive and the hard drive dies, well, that serves no purpose, right? So 3 copies in at least 2 devices where one of those copies is offsite, is not in the same physical location. And I've accomplished that. I have 4 copies of my library. They are in 4 different devices. And one of them is in the cloud. So if something happened to my home and the hard drives that are physically here, all got lost in a fire or a flood, I still have all my photos in a cloud repository that and this is optional, it's something that I chose to do. But all I would have to do is buy a new computer and install Mylio on it, and Mylio would say, oh, you have photos in Backblaze. Let me bring them down for you. And that's it. It would be that easy for me to recover. So add multiple protection vaults for backup. Keep everything in sync. You'll notice that all of my devices are in sync. They'll have a little green check mark next to them. I can also open the sync panel here, and Mylio will show me all of my devices, and it'll even show me what version of my photos are stored on those devices. You'll notice that on the internal hard drive of my computer, I have thumbnails and the optimized version of my images, but the original file is not there because the original file is being saved to those vaults. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 places where the originals are stored. The other devices are also in sync, but they don't have the original. They have the proxy, the optimized version of my photos. And as I mentioned, you can optionally add cloud storage, and we have lots of options. You can use Google Drive, you can use OneDrive, you can use any cloud storage service that uses the S3 protocol. That's what Backblaze is in my case, but you can use others like Wasabi, Amazon Web Services, lots of S3 options there. And you can also purchase Secure Cloud directly from us as a separate subscription from your Mylio subscription, but you can buy it, and it's very, very easy to set up, easier than anything else out there, and your photos will remain private and secure. You can also have the option of encrypting your photos before they go to the cloud so that nobody else can that might have access to that cloud repository will see what the photos are. So lots of protection and not just keeping the photos safe, but keeping your personal information safe. And this just goes over what a protection vault is, which is a complete copy of your library, full original quality, all of the XMP, and then also all the organization work that you did. Because it's important to protect the photos themselves, but you're putting work into adding metadata and organizing your photos in a certain way. Every one of your vaults will have a copy of the Mylio catalog. So your entire organization can be recreated just from that one vault. Typical devices for a vault are an external hard drive, a computer with a lot of storage, or a cloud service. Things that are not good to use as a vault is a mobile phone, right? Because they tend to not have a lot of storage and you're much more likely to lose that device. Same with laptops, right? Laptops, again, tend not to have a lot of storage. In some cases, if your library is small and your laptop has a lot of storage, you could designate it to be a vault, but that's what vaults are. All right. Now, this is my favorite part. Find photos fast. There's two ways of finding photos with Mylio, and I'm going to skip the slides and just show you. One is called dynamic search, and you might have noticed that there's this little magnifying glass at the top of Mylio, and using that magnifying glass, I can do a search for anything. I can type the word monkey, and Mylio is going to return anything that is related to monkeys. So it's saying you have 149 photos of monkeys, and then you have 4 photos where the text monkey is in the photo. So let's see. If I open that photo, yeah, the word monkey is there in a number of places. Let's see what other photos have monkey on them. Oh, monkey wrench fabrication. So Malia saw the word monkey in that one. So just by typing the word monkey, Malio found a lot of things in there. But I can also do very complex searches. Let's say that I want to see photos of myself and my granddaughter. I can say JC and Lucy. And if I open that, there you go. There's 122 photos where um, myself and my daughter are in the photo. What if I only wanted photos where it was just my daughter and I, not the rest of the family? Like you see, there's my daughter in those. Well, I can narrow these results even further. I can say, show me photos of Lucy and I where there's only 2 faces in the photo. In other words, the face count equals 2. Well, now Mali is saying there's 65 of those, and I can click and view all of those. So, and here's a different Lucy, my Aunt Lucy. But I could be very specific. I could say this Lucy, Lucy Grendelane versus Lucy, my aunt. So as you can see, there's lots of ways to do searches. That was just 2 quick, simple searches. We have 38 different parameters that you can do to create your own searches. That can be really, really powerful. It can also be a little bit intimidating. So we have another way of you narrowing down all your photos so that you can get precisely to the photos you want. And it's called quick filters. So I'm in the all photos view, and I intentionally didn't show you the all photos view before because the all photos view is the same thing that you get on your phone where you do this thing where you're scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and hoping to find the photo that you're looking for. And sometimes that's helpful, but in most cases it's not. I'm going to go here all the way to the top to my newest photos. And let's say that I'm trying to find my favorite underwater photos that were taken with my newest camera. Well, I can use something called quick filters to take this view of all of my photos and narrow it down to just my favorite underwater photos taken with my new camera. Let's try that. I'm going to open the quick filter section and notice that I have a lot of different things here, including smart tags. Smart tags are things that Mylio is adding to the photos itself. But I'm going to start with ratings. I'm going to say I want to see 4 and 5-star photos. Then I'm going to go to category and I'm going to say show me only underwater photos. Then I'm going to go here to camera and I'm going to say I want to see photos that were taken with my newest Sony camera, which is that model right there. And there, I did it. I narrowed down my favorite photos that were taken with my newest camera. My favorite underwater photos that were taken with my newest camera. So just like that, I created a subset of my library of photos that are special to me. Let's go ahead and select all of those. I'm going to drag them here to the bottom of the screen to something called the clipboard. And the clipboard is just a placeholder, right? And I'm going to go to my album view and I'm going to tell Mylio I want to create a new album. And I'm going to call it Underwater favorites. I'll open that album, it's empty. I can just go to the clipboard and drag those photos there. And now I have an album of those photos that I just found using the quick filters in a different view. It's just that easy. So just quick recap here, dynamic indexing lets you search photos based on all the metadata on the photos, based on face detection, optical character recognition to recognize text in the photo, location, etc., etc. Dynamic search, quick filters will narrow down results based on what you're specifically looking for. And now we get to print ready edits, right? So how can you edit photos in Mylio? Yes, you can. Can you edit photos outside of Mylio? Yes, you can. I'll show you two quick ways of editing photos. I'm going to go here to my folder. I have a little special folder that I created just to show you photos that the editing functions of Mylio. I'm going to open this photo here. Photo taken with my phone on the way to California. That's Mount Shasta. I'm going to clear the clipboard because I no longer need it. That photo is fine if and of itself. I keep doing that. Sorry about that. But I think we can make it a little bit better. So I'm going to open the information panel and I'm going to go to the edit tab, which shows me all of my edit tools. And one of the things that I can do is I can improve the color of this photo by increasing the vibrance and the saturation. Maybe give the sky a little bit more blue. There we go. I can adjust the clarity. And I can adjust the exposure a bit. And I can even use a histogram to show me areas of the photos that might be underexposed or overexposed. You see in blue, they are the areas that are underexposed. So I can bring my shadows up a little bit more so those areas are no longer overexposed. And just like that, there's a simple before and after. And let's crop that photo too. It seems that it's not completely straight. So let's go ahead and straighten it out a little bit. It's better. And we'll zoom it in just a bit. Click done. So now I can see a before and after of this photo being edited, right? So just some simple edits that I did to that photo just to make it look its best. If you want to do more complex edits, you can use any number of tools. I could ask Mylio to open this photo with any number of applications, Lightroom, Photoshop, Luminar Neo, Radiant Photo, Topaz. If I want to just sharpen this photo, I can open it with a specific sharpening tool. All of that can happen outside of Mylio, and then you bring that photo back to Mylio. A lot of the photos that you're seeing in this gallery of photos have been edited either in Mylio or outside of Mylio just to improve them significantly. If I show you the original version of this photo, say Mylio, show me the original version of that photo, you'll see that the original photo is still good, but not as good as the edited version that I took into another application or in Mylio. I don't remember how I did it, but you get the idea. So lots of editing that you can do to make your photos look their best, either within Mylio, because there's a lot of tools for doing basic editing, or if you want to do more precise editing, do things like creating a mask so that only a certain portion of the photo is being highlighted, etc., etc. You can use the open with facility Mylio to launch that photo in different applications. All right, we're running out of time, so let's quickly go through the last, but certainly not least important part of the presentation, which is now I want to print these photos, right? So I'm going to go ahead and upload that catalog of photos that I did directly to Printique. I'm going to show you, here's my Printique. I account, I'm going to go here to the photo galleries, and you see that there's a number of galleries of photos that I had uploaded there in the past. I'm going to go to Mylio, and from this album, I'm just going to select all of those photos. I'm going to click the share button, and I'm going to post those photos directly to Printique. Mylio is going to ask me for my email because it doesn't remember my Printique account. So I'm going to do that. Oh, now I have to find my password. Sorry, I should have done that ahead of time. Bear with me 1 second while I look up for my password because I don't remember it. Uh, and I will enter it. Of course, my password manager is not working. Oh, here we go. Okay. All right, so now I go back to Mylio and I enter that password, continue. And Mylio is giving me the option of naming the files or also naming the gallery. So I can choose a gallery. I can choose an existing gallery, one of the galleries that is already up there. I can add to it, or I can create a new gallery. We'll call it Underwater Favorites. Save it. And there's a couple of checkboxes that I need to click, understanding my rights to publish these photos. This is just Mylio protecting you, saying, hey, can you really publish these photos? And we can. So we're going to go ahead and post them. And what you'll see is that those photos will start getting posted to Printique right away. If I click my information panel here and I monitor my activities, you can see that Mylio is preparing the photos for Printique and then it's going to publish them. So we'll wait till that publishing section is complete and we'll switch over so you can see them being posted directly to that website. So there it goes. It's uploading. That's a lot of data. I chose some very high resolution photos. So they might take a few minutes to upload. But if I switch here to this view and I refresh my Printique gallery, there's already the underwater photos favorites coming in and there's the first photo. And so from here, I can open that gallery, select one of those photos and instantly choose how I want to print it by choosing some of the many, many, many options that Printique has to save your photos. And as the photos continue to upload, I can keep refreshing this page and you'll see them. I think there's 2 of them now. Again, I chose very large files, so it's going to take a while to upload. But you get the idea and you see how easy it is to do. So with that, let's go to questions so that we can take care of everything because we're already out of time. I see that there's one question, so I'm going to go right to it, Lori, and then I'll answer anything else that people might have asked. John is asking, what is the main advantage of this over Lightroom? Well, there's 2 advantages of Mylio over Lightroom. One is that, and there's 2 different versions of Lightroom. So if you're talking about Lightroom Classic, the main advantage is that Lightroom Classic only works in one device, right? You can only have that library on like one computer. If you're talking about Lightroom Cloud, then yeah, you can have multiple devices, but now you're cloud dependent. So for someone like me with 55,000 photos, I'm going to be paying quite a bit of money to have all of my photos, especially my high resolution photos, stored on the cloud and available to more than one device. In terms of the organization tools that Mylio has, many of them are far superior and exceed what you can do in Lightroom. You would be very hard pressed to go to Lightroom and do something like show me photos of JC and Sarah where the face count equals 2. So that's the only 2 people in the photo, and the photo was taken in Puerto Rico, and it was taken with a Canon camera and have the results come that quickly. If you can do that in Lightroom, then you know Lightroom better than me. So that's one big advantage. The other big advantage is that everything that I've shown you I can do in Mylio on my computer, I can also do on Mylio on my phone or my tablet. So here, I'm going to share the screen from my phone. And I'm going to go to a sample photo here. Let's go. Oops. So there's my phone screen being shared. Sorry, I shared it the wrong way. Let's stop that. I'm going to go to a folder of photos here on my phone, this flowers. So there's a photo of a flower in Mylio on my phone. Sorry, on my computer. I'll share my phone screen. Let's do it the right way this time. Again, wrong way. Okay, so there's my phone. So I'm in Mylio on my phone. I'm going to go to the folder view. I'm going to go to the test folder where this photo lives. I'm going to go to the photos of flowers, and I'm going to find that same photo that is in my computer. And I'm going to go ahead and rotate that photo. Oops, that photo's already been edited. Let's not do that one. Let's do a different one. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and rotate that photo on my phone. That photo rotates on my computer. So again, you'd be very hard pressed to do this, even with Lightroom Cloud, this quickly. However, having said some of the advantages of Mylio versus Lightroom, I will say that when it comes to editing your photos, Lightroom, particularly Lightroom Classic, is far superior in the ability to edit photos, which is why I'm able to take this photo and say, open it with Photoshop or open it with Lightroom Classic. And I would then be able to use all of those tools, then bring that photo right back to Mylio so that it synchronizes with all of my other devices. I hope that answered your question. What else do we have, Lori?
We do have a question from Lisa, and she's asking if you have some photos with people, but you don't know who they are, for example, actors in a stage show, can you select those 10 photos and as a group, ignore faces in these 10 photos?
You can. Actually, what you can do is you can go, let me see if I can find a good example here. What you can do is you can have a photo. Let's say this this is not a good example because I know everybody in that photo, but so in this photo, I've already tagged my family member, but there's some people in there that I don't know who they are. I can go to the info panel and there is a section under the people view here, say ignore untagged faces. So I can just click that button once and then all the other faces in that photo that were not tagged, it keeps jumping to the next photo, are going to be ignored. So in your case, if you were like right here, here's another example, right? So here's a photo of Lucy and Alex and Beetlejuice. Well, I can ignore him individually, but if there was a whole cast of people in there, I can just click ignore untagged faces and it would ignore all the photos, all the faces on that photo. What you cannot do, or what we don't yet have, is a filter that would show you all the photos that have faces for whom you don't know the faces, because Mylio doesn't know if you know the face or not. Maybe you have photos of your ex that you haven't tagged, but you know who that person is, right? So it's more subjective than that. But I hope that answers your question. And let's ignore Beetlejuice.
All right. Any other questions? I think you covered everything. Okay, I don't think there's anything left.
All right.
All right.
Well, thanks everyone. Sorry that we went a little bit over time here. There's so much information to cover, and I can talk about Mylio all day long. Like we spent an hour, I could spend 5 hours and still not cover even most of what Mylio can do. So hope that was helpful for you. And We hope you consider becoming a customer, and we hope you consider sending your photos to Printique. They do lots of really cool stuff. Like here's the photo book that I made of Lucy's first year. And I was able to use Mylio to find photos of her throughout it's kind of hard to, here, there. Um, this was a photo book that I did of her first year of life. There's her sonogram photo and her as a baby. And I created a version that was my daughter's Christmas present. So it's a great way to get your photos in something that you can touch and feel, which is always nice.